Hi everyone, back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my season preview. I'm going to give you some of my thoughts as to how I think the season may play out for Newcastle United. So a bit difficult to do really, given the fact we're still in the transfer window and we still don't know what's going to happen in particular with a certain moody number 14. But we'll get into all of that in a second. Before I do, remember to like and subscribe, guys. Help get us to the next milestone. We're really close to pushing towards 12,000, which is amazing. Thank you so much for all of the recent new subscriptions. So let's get stuck in then. So the summer window has not been great for Newcastle. The preparation for the coming season couldn't have been any worse, to be honest with you. When we finished last season, we managed to somehow get the Champions League, given the fact that Villa blew it on the last day of the season against a rubbish Manchester United team. And we had a stinking draw against Everton, which I was at, sadly, and nearly fell asleep watching. We got in the Champions League. Eddie Howe came out and he said to the press, he said, we need to move quick on players. We need to make sure we get the players in because good players don't hang around. And we were all excited. We all thought, get in. Howe's laid down a marker. Howe wants his players in quick. Mitchell's there. He's going to bring him in, all that kind of stuff. And then almost immediately after Eddie Howe had that press conference, Paul Mitchell goes, there's my notice. See you later. I'm off. Now, I don't know how on earth the club allowed that to happen. I really, really don't. Darren Eales obviously was ill, so he had to leave post. No replacement in for Darren Eales, no replacement in for Mitchell. Walked away in the middle of arguably the most important transfer window since the takeover. We'd done nothing for 3 windows previous. We sold players in January in the shape of Michael Almiron and Lloyd Kelly. No matter what you think about those players, we weakened the squad. Eddie Howe needed those players replaced and more players. We still needed a right winger. We still needed a right centre half. We still needed a backup striker because Callum Wilson was injured all of the time. None of that was happening. We don't know what was going on. Eddie Howe got hooked off his holiday 2 days in. Poor lad, he had bloody pneumonia last year. Needs a fucking break. If anyone needs a break, it was Eddie Howe. He's dragged straight back in to work with Andy Howe, with Steve Nixon, and that is now the transfer committee. And we're thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? All the stories coming out from the likes of Craig Hope, who I think's got really good sources to the club, to be fair. I generally do believe a lot of stuff that Craig puts out there because I think he's got really good sources in there. And Mitchell was an agitator by the sound of it, clashed with a lot of people. Certainly Alexander Isak's contract situation really seems to have come from Mitchell in many ways. And maybe a little bit of the man Staveley's over-promising potentially, but certainly Mitchell's arrogance of handling it by telling him he wasn't going to get a new contract that he wanted. So all of these things have happened behind the scenes that have really unsettled the balance of the harmony of the Newcastle United project. Despite all that, Eddie Howe still got his Champions League and got us our first trophy in 70 years. So what a brilliant job that manager has done. But we've put him under so much pressure this window. And we've gone after big players. We've gone after Liam Delap, couldn't get him. João Pedro, couldn't get him. Brian Mbeumo, couldn't get him. James Trafford, which I still can't believe, 2 years we had this kid signed, apparently, and we still couldn't get him. So it's all fell apart, Sheshko as well. That one didn't work out. TK, and then the Isak bomb as well. I mean, I'll get into the players who've come in first and the players who are potentially coming in before the start of the season, and then we'll talk about Isak. This season's kind of finishing and positivity and everything may be very dependent on what happens with Alexander Isak. So going back to the players that's come in. So one of the first signings off the bat early on was Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest. Now, very good numbers last season, Anthony Elanga, rapid, real pace, real dangerous right winger. We were excited about it. Come in, really strange transfer video as well, not the first one, probably not the last one either. Really strange transfer video with the young lad who wagged school, and I don't know what the club marketing department was doing there. Not been a great summer for them either. But Anthony Elanga comes in, 50-odd million quid, one of the best performers in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons, really. And you're thinking, right, get in up there with Isak, Swedish, teammates, pace, quality, everything's great. Jacob Murphy was brilliant last season, his assists and everything. Now we've got competition on the right-hand side. Excellent. We've still got Gordon and Barnes on the left. There was worries about Gordon. Potentially, was he maybe going to go? Was someone going to come in for him? I was talking about Luis Diaz leaving Liverpool. Would Liverpool then come in for Gordon? That's not happened. Gordon, to be fair, was knuckled down this pre-season. He looks happy. He looks focused. And I think we're going to have a big season from Anthony Gordon, despite the hairband, which I'm kind of warming to be fair. I'm only just jealous, Anthony, because I can't have as good of luxurious long blonde hair as you, Sunshine. But he's looked hungry in pre-season, and I think we're going to get a better season of Gordon, a better version of Gordon. He talked about that failed move to Liverpool. He talked about how it played with his mind. Lessons to be learned there, Alex Isak. More on you in a second. But Gordon looks focused. Barnes is there as well. Barnes still scores goals and gets assists, and Barnes is now agitating for a move. So we were looking good there. Isak was in there too. Callum Wilson then leaves the club as a free agent. Lovely message from the club in terms of that. We kind of knew it was happening. There was talk of a new contract. We didn't really want that to happen because he was never fit. Great player when he was fit, but those days were long gone. So he's gone to West Ham now. Good luck to Callum. You can guarantee he's going to score against us, don't you, next season, and do one of those, or just go like that in the crowd. But Callum's moved on. Sean Longstaff was sold as well, which we'll go back to this in a minute, because Sean Longstaff was sold. Sean Longstaff has kind of dipped a bit over the last few years. He's a lovely lad and runs his nuts off. And I think going to Leeds is a great move for Sean Longstaff. I think Leeds are very similar to us. The fan base is very similar to us. One of my mates is a Leeds fan as well. They were really happy that they signed him. And I think that's a great move for Sean. But the issue that Newcastle have is the midfield was no stronger. So we sold Sean Longstaff. Lewis Miley's looked really good pre-season, which is great. We need a good pre-season from Lewis Miley. Willock has looked useless. Again, he's regressed so much in the last 2 years. I'd have sold Willock more than Longstaff. I think Willock's done less than Longstaff over the last 2 years, to be in all fairness. He's injured again. So we're going to have to bring in some midfield cover. There's no doubt about it. We're being linked to Jacob Ramsey this week. We'll be linked to a few other players as well. Is it Canusi or something from Leicester, Moroccan kid? I don't know where he plays, if he's midfielder, if he's on the wing, but we need some other midfielders, and there's no doubt about that, because we've got three of the best midfielders in the league when they're fit. Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton. Excellent three when they're fit. Strength, silk, quality, aggression, everything you want in a midfielder, goals, assists, it's all in there. But when one of them's injured or suspended, we've only got Lewis Miley underneath them. So we need somebody else. We need another midfielder at least. If we're going to keep Willock, we're going to keep Willock. But I still think it'll be another season of very underperformance from Joe Willock. The defence, that's been a big issue for us. The lack of pace. Botman again has been managed carefully over the summer. Lewis Hall's back, which is good, but again, he's been managed carefully as well. So their long-term injuries will probably prohibit them starting the season, but both very good players, young, and many of their best years ahead of them. In terms of the rest of the players, Trippier is going to be 35 in September this year. Fabian Schär, 34, Byrne, 34. Obviously, Nick Pope is still at the football club. Dubravka's left the football club. He's gone to Burnley. We brought in Aaron Ramsdale after we failed to bring in James Trafford. I was really against Aaron Ramsdale's sign. I thought it smacked of mediocrity. It reminded me of the Ashley era. I've maybe been a little bit harsh on the lad. Looking at him in the pre-season friendly, his composure and his ability with his feet, maybe there is something there to be excited about with Aaron Ramsdale, because that's Pope's biggest issue. When he runs off his line, he looked completely headless. He looks like a giraffe chasing a fucking sugar cube down the zoo or something like that. He's all over the place, legs and arms fucking flailing, head bobbing, and you don't know what the fuck he's doing. He's never been the same since he come off his line against Liverpool, to be fair. So, but Ramsdale could give us a little bit more composure and the ability to play out from the back, which would be interesting. But the centre-backs still lack pace. Byrne and Schär still lack pace. Trippier lacks pace, but what they've got is experience and in-game management, the ability to manage themselves in games, all three of them. And Dan Byrne had his best season ever as a Newcastle player last season. Dan Byrne will start the season because Botman is injured again. Now, we brought in Malik Chow. It's not official as of time of recording this. It will be soon. But Malik Chow, 24 years old from AC Milan, German international. Very good player. Pace, very quick. And we need that in that back line. That's one of the biggest reasons we conceded goals last season, is the lack of pace. Certainly against teams like Aston Villa, ball over the top, runners, likes of Watkins and Ramsey and people like that. Asensio, Rashford, when he was there on loan, we didn't have the pace to keep up with those players. Malik Chow has pace. He's very quick, over 10, 12 yards. That will help us definitely at the back. There is no doubt about that at all. And it'll help us with the squad rotation and the management as well in terms of that. Certainly he's got European experience. He's played for AC Milan and Champions League as well. So I think Malik Chow will be a really good addition. And for 35, 40 million quid in this current market, I think that's a really good bit of business. So I'm excited to see him in the back line as well. That'll probably be the only addition to the back line, if I'm honest with you. We've got some young players coming through. Young Alex Murphy's looked good in pre-season. The ability to fill at left back as well is good. Target has come back from the cryostasis that he's been in. So maybe Target can have a squad position to play. I'm still not really sure on Target. Leo Sahar's in and around the kind of first team, the young English fullback as well, who's very Trippier-esque, getting up down the line, good right foot on him as well to get a ball in the box. So that could be something for the future. But bringing in some pace at the back was essential, and bringing in Malik Chow was essential. Lascelles is back from injury. I'm still not sure about Lascelles. I think he's potentially regressed a bit more. It's hard because he's been out for so long to look at him in pre-season and think, you know what, he's not good enough anymore, because he'll need game time to get back up to a level. So we'll see how it goes with Lascelles. But I think bringing in Chow as the right centre-half has been long overdue. That'll be the only addition in the back line. The midfield definitely needs to be strengthened. Now let's get on to the forwards, which is the biggest issue that we've had. So the Alexander Isak bomb was dropped after we apparently were talking to Hugo Ekitike. Looked like we were going to get him. And then Liverpool were sniffing around Isak. We were very, very strong and said, no, 150 million quid or you don't get Isak. And then Liverpool went and signed Ekitike. Another one of the rejections. We've been bantered all summer, rejection FC and all that. I'll talk about how Eddie Howe can use that as fuel in a minute. But we lost our Ekitike. Now Isak has become so unsettled that he hasn't gone on the preseason tour. Apparently he's down tools. He's refused to play. All these things that Eddie Howe's haven't tried managing, the club are trying to manage. In the background, we're still looking for a Callum Wilson replacement. I mean, wouldn't have let Callum Wilson go if we didn't think we could have got that replacement. Now, there was two lists Newcastle was shopping from. One was a Wilson replacement, one was an Isak replacement. And Johan Wisser from Brentford was a Wilson replacement. He wants to move to Newcastle. He wants to come to the club. He wants to play Champions League. And that's really good. That's the kind of players we want at the football club. Our star striker doesn't want to be at the club. Whether he's there September 1st or not remains to be seen. I'll come on that in a second. But Johan Wisser has also been a bit of a shithouse to Brentford this summer. They've had loads of changes. They've lost Mbuemo. They've lost Thomas Frank. They've got a new manager in Keith Andrew, which I'm really not sure that's a good move for Brentford. I think they're going to be in for a tough season. I can see them really fighting relegation this season, especially if they lose Wisser as well. They're going to try to sign somebody from Bournemouth to come in to replace Wisser, and then Wisser goes to Newcastle. So at the time of recording this, Wisser's not coming to Newcastle, but with any luck, he may be in by the end of the week, which is exactly what we need to someone to lead the line, because Will Asula's not looked up for it at all, pre-season at all. Been really disappointed with Will Asula. Gordon's going to have to play through the middle. He's not a centre forward. He's got good movement, runs around, causes bother, but he's not a centre forward. He can't finish. He's a winger who can get the odd goal or two. So that's going to be a big problem starting against Aston Villa with no recognised centre forward if Wisser doesn't come in, which I don't think that he will. So that's going to be a challenge as well. So going into the main problem with Alexander Isak before I talk about where I think we're going to finish in the season. Alexander Isak has been disgraceful for the football club this summer. The way he's behaved, the way he's disrespected the manager who's helped coach him to be the third best striker in the world, the way he's disrespected his teammates, the way he's disrespected the club and the fans. It's totally been uncalled for. But saying all of that, he's still the third best striker on the planet. He's got 3 years left in his contract. If Liverpool don't want to pay the fee it'll take to release him, he will still be at this football club by September 1st. I don't care whether he wants to play for us or not, or says he won't play for us or not. He will, because footballers' careers are very short. And if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. 1 minute you can be Paul Pogba, £90 million World Cup winning signing for Manchester United. The next minute, nobody wants to touch you with a 10-foot pole because you've got a bad attitude. And Isak's in that echo chamber right now. Now, this is a power play from him and his people, as I said in the previous video, about trying to force the move. And I don't think it'll happen. I think Isak will probably end up being a Newcastle player for the remainder of the season, but he might not. I generally don't know sitting here talking to you. But the way things are going, I just don't think Liverpool will meet the valuation, and we can't buy a replacement good enough. So I think Isak will end up staying at the football club. He won't play for a good few months for the season starting, which again is going to hurt us. We've got some very difficult games. Certainly starting at Villa Park is really hard. Villa want to start strong. They've got a new striker in camp as well. He'll want to get a goal, get off on a good foot. Then we've got Liverpool, the league champions, at St James's Park, which is going to be an absolute cauldron of noise and really hate-fueled game. I think that it's going to be a really, really bad vibe in that game in terms of, the aggression from Newcastle towards Liverpool, the way they behaved this summer. They've really derailed our entire summer, Liverpool Football Club. So I think they're going to get it off Newcastle at St James's Park, and they deserve it, in my opinion. But going back to the situation with Isak, if Newcastle can keep Isak at the club, or if they do keep Isak at the club because there is no way to move him on because the valuation isn't met and the replacement's not brought in, then it's a big job for Eddie Howe to get him back reintegrated within the group. Isak has to be a humble pie, has to apologise to his teammates, has to get locked in, focused, get back to what he's doing well. We saw last season when he was moody as fuck, when Mitchell refused his contract. At the start of the season, he was moody. At the end of the season, he was moody. In the middle, he was superb. He was absolutely brilliant. arguably one of the best centre forwards on the planet. So if you can get Isak into that situation where he locks in and does what he does best, another big move will be ready from next season. Whether it be Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, one of the Milan clubs, PSG, or Liverpool come back from. That will be the Alexander Isak that we need next season. But that is a big if right now. A lot of fans will maybe never forgive him for the way he's behaved. Sometimes when you behave like that, there is no way back for you as a footballer. So I can understand why the club would sell him and move him on, but only if a replacement comes in. But the club has to be very careful that they're not seen as a soft touch and people just don't come and try and cherry pick their best players. So the Isak situation, if I'm sitting here right now and I want to throw my hat in it, I think Isak will be here next season. Wissa will come in. He'll lead the line, certainly for the first handful of games in the Premier League before Isak slowly reintegrated back into the squad. And if he can get back to what he does best, football is a fickle game. The boos will quieten down, the cheers will get louder, and people will get behind Alexander Isak again. I generally believe that. But I don't see the club signing 2 centre forwards before this window shuts. I think they need to bring in another centre midfielder, whether that's Jacob Ramsey or somebody else. I really like the idea of Jacob Ramsey. I think Villa need a cash injection for PSR. Jacob Ramsey's been identified for Newcastle for a while. Apparently, he fancies the move. You've seen what Eddie Howe's done to other England players, Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall, Anthony Gordon, even Dan Burn. And he fancies that. He fancies being in amongst that kind of developmental coach and maybe push his career on as well. So that could be a really good sign if Newcastle get it, because he's a huge upgrade on both Willock and Longstaff is Jacob Ramsey. Noises around Paqueta, I don't think that's going to happen. I think West Ham want 60 million quid. I don't think Newcastle would pay that for Paqueta. I think they're probably looking in between the kind of 40, 35 to maybe 50 million pound mark for a midfielder maximum. Conor Gallagher's another one. Apparently Newcastle want to do a loan to buy deal, but Atletico Madrid want the sale. So I think there will be a midfielder that comes in because the squad is so weak in there. We've been playing full backs in there. So I really think there will be a midfielder coming. So Malik Chow is probably in by the time this is out, potentially. A midfielder coming in, whoever it may be from that list. Hopefully Wissa up front on top of Ramsdale and Elanga. Keep Isak in the squad. Get him reintegrated. Get his head back in the game. That's not a bad window for Newcastle. We'd look stronger. Where we're going to finish next season, it all depends on everything I've just said there. Because if you don't bring in those key positions, Wissa, the midfielder, if you get rid of Isak and don't replace him, or if you sell Isak and get in a suitable replacement, be it Samu or Ollie Watkins or somebody like that, then Newcastle could definitely be pushing again for top 5, in the Premier League. I believe that they could. They've added to the squad. They've got a deeper squad. They've got a bit more quality in the squad, in terms of the first 16, because the starting 11, when they're fit, is good. Outside of that, it's maybe another 2 or 3 players, and outside of that, it really drops off in terms of quality. You want quality to step in to replace quality. So if you've got Nottingham Forest on Saturday and Bayern Munich on Tuesday, you might not necessarily want to play Bruno, Tonali, and Joe Linton. You might play Lewis Miley, Conor Gallagher, and Joe Willock, or Lewis Miley, Jacob Ramsey, and Conor Gallagher. You don't know. You want to mix it up like that. You want to be able to have that depth in squad to be able to use the squad, in that particular way. And also those players have different attributes. Tonali and Bruno are more technically gifted. Tonali has got a bit more pace, but likes of Conor Gallagher and Ramsey have got pace. They've got direct running. They've got attacking ability that can get goals as well. So you want a bit more variety in the squad as well. Newcastle need to do that business and get Wissa in as well for the centre forward position. I think he's the only game in town for that position. And I think he's the best choice. 19 Premier League goals last season. If you look at the strike rate last season, he was something like a goal every 1.6 games, which I think is close to Isak's 1.5 as you could get. So brilliant season from Wissa last season. Can play across the front 3 as well if there's any injuries left or right. So that would be a great addition. But the big $64 million, $150 million question is Alexander Isak. Does he stay or does he go? Right here and now, I think that he stays. Get him reintegrated back into the squad. He'll get you 20 goals again next season. He will focus. He will score goals. He seems that type of player. He'll shut out the noise and he'll do what he does. A lot of his teammates will never look at him the same way, but they'll give him the ball, they'll feed him, they'll get goals, they'll celebrate goals with him. I don't think they'll ever feel the same way about him as they did before. And then next summer, he'll go to whatever club he wants to go to, and the club will accept that, maybe with a pay rise and a lower release clause for a club abroad. It's interesting, no club abroad has come in for him yet. Paris Saint-Germain, all those kind of clubs. because I think they don't like what they're seeing with the attitude. And if he knuckles down, gets his head in the game, scores goals next season, he'll get his pick of all these massive European elite clubs. But that's what Newcastle need to do in terms of bringing in those players. If they bring in all those players and keep Isak, get him back firing, I think they could really push for top 5. But my worry is that Isak's gone. You don't bring in a good enough quality replacement. Even Ollie Watkins, I think, is a really good footballer, would fit into our team really well and get goals. He's 30 now. Wissa's 29 this season coming. I don't think the two of them have what Isak has to win your games out of nothing. So I think we may slip a little bit further down the table. If I'm brutally honest with you, I think we're probably going to finish, I think we'll finish 6th or 7th next season, whether we keep Isak or not, because I think it's a long, hard season. I think we'll make a better fist of it in the Champions League, possibly get through the stages as the formats change now, which will be great for us. I think we could go quite far in a domestic cup, be it the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. We've had a taste of that now. We've been to 2 finals, we've won 1. And then we've been to a quarter as well, I think, in the mix there as well. Was the FA Cup? We got a quarter, so we got dumped out. So I think Newcastle are becoming a really good cup team because the younger players below, like Lewis Miley, Sahar, Sansu, Song Su as well, by the way, who's a real bright spot. He could really surprise a lot of us this season. Because we've got these young, exciting players, we can maybe play in the cups as well for the early rounds of the FA Cups. I think we can get through to the later stages as well. So I think Newcastle finish, say, 6th or 7th, possibly win the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. It's not a bad season, that really isn't. And then do well in the Champions League as well. That's not a bad season. We need to close out all this negative noise that we've had through the summer with Alexander Isak, one way or the other. Whether he stays or whether he goes, that noise has to be shut down. And September 1st brings that. The window's shut, that noise is gone. We'll see what happens after that. But the squad, as we sit here right now, still lacks recruitment in key areas, and I worry about that. I worry about the age of the defence. I worry about Burn, Shaw, Trippier playing too many games at 35, 34. Fatigue catching up on them. Nick Pope still makes me a bit nervous in goal. Good shot stopper, but really shaky when he comes out. I think Ramsdale eventually will take that number 1 spot. Pope will get injuries. He's getting a lot of injuries these days, and Ramsdale will have that spot. I don't think he'll start the season. I think Pope will start the season, but Ramsdale will end that season as number 1. I really do believe that. 27 years old, got good attributes. If he can focus and just not go crazy like he's done previously, I think he could be a decent signing for us after all. So him, Malachau, Alanga, very good signings. Bring in Wissa, bring in a Ramsey or a Gallagher, or something like that. There was links to John McGinn, but I don't think that happened. I don't think Villa will sell John McGinn. I think he's too valuable to them, and they're a rival of ours. I don't think they'll sell to us as a Champions League rival. So those players, and keeping Isak, getting them focused again. Newcastle are in better shape than we were last summer. Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. And all of the negativity and the noise and the shit we've been getting from other fans, we can put away into a box, lock it away, fuck it off, and just focus on the football. And hopefully those players can integrate well into the squad. Isak can get over himself, get back into the squad and score goals, and then we can push on. If Isak goes and we don't bring in a good enough centre forward, I think the harmony in the squad's probably better. For me, Eddie Howe is going to use this as fuel. So I call this siege or struggle. Now, that's where Newcastle's season is really going to go for me. If Eddie Howe can forge a siege mentality where it's us against the world, look at all these people laughing at us, look at all these people taking the piss out of us, look at all these people, underestimating us. Let's fucking show them and get the lads whipped up and ready and fired for that. If Isak's in the squad, he's out in the periphery, he won't be on board for that at the beginning. But a few months down the line, he'll have to slowly get himself back in there. But if that siege mentality is there, do they want him there? Do they trust him there? That's the danger. If he goes and a new striker comes in, he's right on board with that siege mentality from day one. That's the positivity there, but the quality isn't quite there. So that's the trade-offs. That's a real difficult position for Eddie Howe and the club to manage. I still think the club should stick by their guns and put down a marker that they won't be bullied by these bigger teams, these elite teams, these super club teams, super league teams even. I think you need to show them up front that you're not going to get pushed around, because it shows the rest of the players. You can't throw your toys out of pram and force them move. It's not going to happen. So I think in the long term, it'll do Newcastle well. The short term, there'll be a little bit of adjustment trying to get in that. But I think how we'll lock in that siege mentality to the players that are there, the likes of Bruno and Joe Linton, will enforce it. I like what I'm seeing from Lewis Miley earlier on. I think this could be a real good season for him. Stay injury-free, really kick on as a player and develop even further than we've already seen. Get that siege mentality in. Newcastle against the world. We could really get some good results and put ourselves in a good position, go to the Champions League and just really go for it. The struggle side, I think, will come when Champions League really kicks in in terms of the squad depth. If the quality drop-off goes down considerably when you're in the Premier League, then I think that's where Newcastle will see a struggle. But for me, if I'm sitting here right now, if we keep Isak, get him firing and everything else, add those players in that I've mentioned, I think we can get fifth. If Isak goes and we don't bring in a good enough replacement to replace him, I think we're probably looking at about 6th or 7th, guys. That's my gut feeling about the season. Listen, I'm going to support the team no matter what. Same as you. I hope Eddie Howe turns that siege mentality on, sticks it right up everybody, says, fuck you, we're Newcastle United, we do the job, we start getting results. All these wankers who are taking the piss out of us, shut their fucking mouths and just watch Newcastle do what they do best. Press teams, aggressive, get the ball back, score goals, get the crowd up, war flags and tenants, everything we know Newcastle can be under Eddie Howe and this takeover. We need some positivity back into the club, and I think Eddie Howe's the man to deliver it. But hopefully we'll get the players in that we need. Whatever's happening with Isak, Eddie Howe's positivity and that sense of unity will totally overrule that. But that's my kind of season prediction, guys. Let me know yours in the comments below. Always like to hear your opinion. We'll do our best to reply to it. Keep it above the belt, as I always say. If you're a prick, you'll get the flick. I'm sure there's plenty of pricks, some of the clubs there who seem to have no content of their own to watch. They'll be commenting, but I won't even read it because I won't even waste my time. But Newcastle fans, let me know what you guys think below. Smash a like, help the channel grow. Loads of content coming this season from Evermore. The usual thoughts of the day, opinions from me. There'll be player ratings we're going to throw in there this season, previews, match, post-match analysis as well, all live for you. Come and join. Let us know what you think about the game that's just gone. Keep it Evermore for this season. Let's hope Newcastle have a good season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you when the season kicks off.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.